C'est comme ça commence. So, hello, dear listeners and audience. Today on the Triumph and Triad podcast, we are super happy because we welcome Sébastien Night. So, Sébastien, first tell us for how long have you been a business owner and what are you doing?
Okay, so for how long have I been the business owner of this specific company? So One Take AI, which is our AI startup. The idea was in 2021. The first customer was January 14th of 2022. So it's been 2 years and a half that we've grown this company specifically. I have been an entrepreneur since high school when
Wow.
I was selling you know, when I was in high school was the first few years that people could have these programmable calculators.
Okay.
And I figured out a program, I created a program that would solve your entire math exam for you. Not, and the trick was, it's super easy to program something that gives you the answer.
Nice.
So you can check that your answer is correct. What I programmed was a little piece of magic that would tell you like line by line what you're supposed to write in the exam.
Ah,
Like,
that's good.
oh, this is a second degree equation. Da, da, da. Delta equals blah, blah, blah. Da, da, da. And so I sold it for $10 a pop. I had to borrow from my dad $100 to buy a special cable so I could send the program to other people. And I said that I'm going to pay you back like within a week because basically everybody in the entire high school bought this program from me. So that was my first business was actually software when I was in high school. But my
That's
first
pretty cool.
my first actual business was in 2006.
Okay. But yeah. So you've always been a business owner then.
Yes, I've been an employee for exactly 4 months at the end of engineer school.
Okay.
It was the exact job I wanted in the company I wanted at the salary I wanted.
Okay.
And I was miserable after 4 weeks. And I was in such pain that I realized, oh my God, there is no way. Like if you don't get the job you want, or you don't get the salary you want, or whatever, you can always think maybe it's gonna be better if I get a promotion, if I
Yeah.
switch.
Yeah.
But if you got like your dream, like I had been studying at this point for 8 years, 3 years of high school, 2 years of preparatory classes, 3 years of engineering school to get into this specific
Yeah.
spot. And after 8 years, you get there and it's awful. Then you know, well, maybe I need to start from scratch in a different direction. And so I said, I'm going to start a business.
Excellent, excellent. So, as the podcast is called Triumph and Trials, let's start with the easy part. What, up to now, out of all of those companies and adventures, what was your biggest triumph, your biggest success?
Biggest success. I would say the company that I'm doing now is the biggest success because of, I always think of business as you're climbing a staircase and you can use everything you've done before as something you can stand on to move to a higher level of
Hmm.
resources.
Okay.
And so um, I started with very simple business 15 years ago, and I was one of the first dating coaches in France. That got me a lot of press, but I knew I didn't want to always be a dating coach,
Okay.
and I wanted to move to help other entrepreneurs. And what happened is the success of that business, because I was on TV all the time, got a lot of people to ask me online, could I help them with their business? So I launched the Free Entrepreneur Movement, which I ran from 2010 to 2022. And we coached 300,000 entrepreneurs in 41 countries with that
Oh,
business.
oh,
And
nice.
that business is what led to the creation of OneTech AI, which I'm the CEO and co-founder of right now. Because when I was coaching, so through COVID, I was coaching many people and doing a lot of live sessions. And I realized that for so many entrepreneurs, the one thing that gets them stuck in growing their business is how much content you have to create and
Yeah.
promote online to get the business rolling and to get people buying your products. And almost all of the pieces of this online business have been solved. So if you're trying to figure out how do I create a website in a few clicks, this is a solved problem. There are tools for this.
Yes.
If you want to sell an online course and you have the videos, there's 100 tools that can host your course and have a
Right.
password
Yeah.
access to it. The one thing that was not solved was um, I am an expert. I know what I want to talk about, and I want a polished video, but I'm not a polished speaker or a great video editor. And so this was a huge roadblock for most entrepreneurs I was coaching. So this is why I came up with this idea. Let's create software where you just upload some raw footage of yourself, and it turns that into a professional presentation because this was a huge gap. On a technical side, even being an engineer, we were before ChatGPT, so AI was not at all as popular as today. And the problem was on paper impossible. So several
Okay.
CTOs of companies told me, this is what you just wrote at the spec of your software. This is very likely to just not be possible. Um, and we have a way of speaking in French. We say impossible n'est pas français. So the impossible word doesn't exist in French, is what they say. And so I went and built it in 4 weeks.
Nice. So
And
the
then
studies were useful at one stage.
of being an engineer,
Yeah.
yes, but not the way I would have anticipated.
Okay.
So I studied at École Centrale, which is one
Okay.
of the famous, like equivalent Ivy League of French schools. But what they teach you at École Centrale, even if you want to be, I wanted to be a computer engineer,
Hmm.
they teach you more of the framework of thinking of how to solve problems, how to work with a team, how to speak English better. That was useful. Um, and so when I started one take, I did not code the software by myself because I could see that this would be a rabbit hole I would not get out of. Like if I started writing the code myself, I would not have the time to promote the software, not have the time to think of the product, not have the time to care about the customer. I would just be stuck doing this. So I couldn't do this by myself. And so I initially worked with freelancers where I wrote the spec, I designed what the software would do. I worked with UX designers. And now I have a technical co-founder who's somebody that's like his technical level is so far ahead of mine that what he can build, like
Hmm.
my brain is better used not writing the code, but showing him the vision so that he can build it. So we move so much faster and we can provide value so much faster.
Okay. So part of the success is finding the right people, right?
Ah, yes,
Hmm.
definitely more than 100% because, and that's one of the points we might talk about when we talk about the failure. I've learned from like I've hired tens of people in my several different businesses over the years. So I learned lots of very costly lessons on that point of you want to have the right people on the boat, people that believe in the mission, people that also want the boat to go in the same direction that you're getting the boat to.
Hmm.
And that doesn't come uh, at random. You have to be very conscious when making hiring decisions or partnering decisions because Vladimir is a partner in the business, is not simply an employee, for instance.
Right. Right. So yes, you were talking about failures. So what's one of the biggest failures or the biggest failure you experienced? We already mentioned about employees and people you work with, and what lesson did you get out of that failure?
Oh, I think I can draw a perfect contrasting story between right now I'm running a successful tech startup. And 10 years ago to the dot, I was launching a tech startup that taught me all the lessons that make this one work.
Wow, all the lessons in one company. That's cool.
Yes. So 10 years ago, with one of my best friends, we joined forces to start a startup And that startup was the right idea at the perfect time.
Okay.
It did 1 million in revenue in the first year. Because right out of the gate, like the market was ready for it.
Okay.
So the idea was the following. Content marketing and e-learning is the future. So we are back in 2014, okay?
Mhm.
And I could see that people want to learn from people, but they want the comfort of doing this online. So I could see in the clientele of entrepreneurs I was coaching, how many people wanted to move their business online, create online courses, do online coaching or consulting. And so we built this tool that enabled you to create online sales funnels, online courses, to get payments and to do like one-time upsells or subscriptions.
Okay.
So in terms of features, it was very rich. It was the first tool of its kind in French. And as I said, it was the perfect time. If you look at the very successful companies in that space today, ClickFunnels is a 9-figure company, for instance,
Mm.
and it launched after us. Lead Pages launched, I think, the year before. Like System.io launched 3 years after and is today a 8-figure company. So the potential was there
Yeah.
for that. We did 1 million in the first year. So woohoo! Now, how do you turn like an overnight first year success
Yeah.
into a failure that becomes a good story for a podcast? So we made a couple of mistakes there that I made sure to not repeat in my current company. I
Okay.
would say in a particular order, first is split focus. So my partner was the CEO and CTO of the business. I was in charge of operations and marketing and legal and all of that. However, we also had other things going on. And so, for instance, on my side, I had this startup I was growing, but at the same time, I also had the free entrepreneurs movement, which was taking a lot of my time. The marketing people that worked with us, they were also like, we found some like 2 great people to do marketing, but they were split between those 2 businesses. So it's not like one person on each side, it was like 2 half people. And what
Okay.
happens if you have a half-time or part-time marketing people is their mind is never 100% on this specific business. The marketing calendar is never 100% going and moving
Okay.
forward. So it would have been better to have just one person but full-time versus 2 half people, like
Yeah.
by far.
Yeah.
Another mistake, and this is, I think, a lesson that 100% is essential for a tech company, but also applies to many other kinds of companies, is we thought that we would move faster on the tech side and on the design side as well by having more bodies, like more people,
Uh-huh.
but we had limited budget. So we had there was a point where my partner, who was the CTO, super strong technical guy, like could code you Facebook in like a weekend. Like he's a super good guy. However, we hired like a bunch of contractors under him, like
Okay.
cheap developers, so that we would have, I can't remember how many, maybe there was like 8 people, but they were not at his skill level at all. So there would be a lot of work being done, which created so much additional work for him to manage and
Okay.
fix, because you have bad quality code, so you have to fix it. And in retrospect, if we had used this entire budget to hire like one developer that would be about the same level as he was,
Okay.
actually have moved faster. With one super tech guy versus 8 cheap.
Average guys. Yeah.
Yes, yes, the difference was huge. And so these 2 first mistakes, I think, come back to one source issue, was that we were undercapitalized. So we started the company, we bootstrapping is the perfect word for it. Like we started with nothing on the laptops, started growing it. We did make money in the first year. That was great. But there was the opportunity of saying, oh my God, if we made $1 million in revenue in year one, we could have gone out and raised, not even from like venture capital, we could have raised from friends and family, from our customers. We could have raised a large enough round to be able to hire the marketing people and the developers that we needed to step up to the next level.
Right.
And at the time, we were very scared of doing that. Like we didn't have any experience with fundraising. We didn't understand the startup scene and how that works. And we were afraid of doing that. So that
Okay.
cost us in the end. And
Wow.
then, can I tell a horror story?
Oh yeah, please.
Okay. I've mentioned this story a couple times, and people have told me it's always the first time that they've heard of somebody that sued the bank and won. Let's talk about suing the bank.
Yeah, it's a good one.
What happened is year one, revenue goes from 0 to 7 figures, like within the first year. We are growing, and we were with a French bank called CIC.
Okay.
And I can mention their name because I will never be a customer there again in my entire life. What happened is the account manager there, they didn't understand the online, like the business model of the company, and they didn't understand the idea of online business. So one day they look at the company's accounts and they decide that there is too much money there. This is weird.
This is
So
unacceptable.
this is not normal. Like you are a first year and a half, something like that, company, and there was in the accounts 500,000 euros, like a €500,000.
Hmm.
They froze it. They said,
Okay.
we don't understand what you do. We froze your assets and your money, and we'll analyze this and have a look. And so they didn't like ask us, like, please send a business plan,
Yes,
please
yes, yeah.
come visit us and talk. They said, oh, guys, we froze your money. We're going to check things out. And I don't know how you're going to check anything out if you're not getting any information from us, but they just froze it. And the process, so I've had money frozen, like for instance, with PayPal. That happens if you have a sudden surge in sales. It
Yes.
happened to me and several of my customers where if you do a big product launch and you have everybody like
Yeah.
buy on the same day, it freaks the banks or the payment system. It freaks them out if you didn't warn them in advance. And with PayPal, it's a tough negotiation, but what usually they will do is they will look at your history. They will contact some of the customers to check that everything is fine.
Hmm.
And will unfreeze, like they will have a plan where they freeze a portion of the money that they expect to be at risk, like refunds,
Yeah, yeah.
and they will unfreeze the other amount if you talk to them like right away. These guys at the CIC, they said, we've got like a 6-month approval process.
Wow.
And the problem was the money that they froze, the vast majority of it was already planned to be paid out to affiliates, customers who were processing payments like through us as a resale.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even that they froze 500,000 of our money.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
it froze money that we were about to pay out as invoices and as like to external people that were important to us. So something good happened and something bad happened. The good thing that happened is in France, I found out at the time, we have an arbitration system where in the case of an extreme business conflict that is urgent,
Uh-huh.
instead of going to the courts for 2 years, you can actually get jugement en référé
Mm.
like really fast. where it gets arbitrated within 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so we managed to go that way and actually beat the bank, and they had to reopen the accounts. However, it took us, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks to figure that out and then 2 weeks to get that done. So maybe for a month, the assets were frozen. The biggest issue we had was that you have a company where both co-founders are basically introverts. And I was way less communicative back then than I am now. And so, and we have the same way, at the time, we had the same way of dealing with problems, which is,
Okay.
I don't want to, like, Thomas comes to me and says, we have a problem. I want to fix the problem and come to Thomas with the solution.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to reply to Thomas, I don't know, give me time. So what happened at the time was our communication skills were zero. So everybody was freaked out because we couldn't wire the money out. So the affiliates, the customers that needed the money wired back to them, they couldn't get it. And we, as the C-level people, were trying to solve the problem, but not communicating. So
Yeah.
from a customer perspective, you have like the money is not coming to you, and you're sending emails or trying to call, and you're not getting a response because we didn't want to tell you we don't have the answer yet.
Okay. Get it.
That was a very painful lesson because it was awful. Like for the experience, like I can feel it now how scary it is for the person on the other side. And even though we did beat the bank, so we were able to pay every single person, like everything was solved after a couple of weeks. This couple of weeks of waiting in
Yeah,
silence,
just screwed everything.
yeah, that's screwed us. And what happened is we just on the heels of that, with perfect timing, a competitor started a business with basically the value proposition. And he was also a well-known figure in this same marketplace. So one of my colleagues, actually, somebody that I knew very well, they had built a similar solution. And this guy, I admire his like communication skills. Like this guy is a professional TV personality. Like he knows how to communicate with people
Okay.
very
Okay.
effectively. And so when we were like in the gutter, they showed up and they're like, we do the same thing, and their price was like 10% cheaper. And they were just nice people, and they were not like engineers that were like hiding behind the computer. So this was like perfect timing on their part. And then my partner got really like he just dropped the towel and just said, well, there's no way we are beating these guys. And this is actually another one of the lessons there is later on when I started One Take AI, I met with a startup investor, and he was a fascinating guy. And he told me something that applied to that. He said, out of all the startups that they had invested in, the startups that failed, it was never because a competitor beat them on
Yeah.
the tech, whatever. It was always because of the mindset of the founders. Like
Okay.
if you drop the towel and you say, well, there's no way we can beat these guys, and obviously there is no way
Yeah,
you're
you
going to
will
beat.
not keep going. You will not have the right actions and you'll just collapse. Yeah.
Exactly. So I took all of those lessons, and when I started One Take, I decided, okay, no part-time marketing team. We get the best talent we can. That's how I found Vlad as my technical co-founder. We will raise money. I still wanted to de-risk the business first, so I bootstrapped with my own money. So I invested €1 million of mine to run the business in the first 2 years, and to get to the point where it's like safe investment for
Okay.
when I want to raise money, because people can see there's already like a customer base, happy people,
Right.
paid customers, a product that exists. Um, I got much better at communication. That's important. Like I speak to my customers every week. I do like live 2 hour live sessions,
Okay.
training, coaching. Like we're always there. And frankly, just learning to not be afraid of competition and instead embrace it. Like we are building something where when I started, I Googled AI video editor, and I promise you there was zero results in Google for that. Now, if you look, we are recording this in 2024,
Mm.
you're gonna get like 70 pages
Yeah,
of right? Because it's the time like for AI, it's the right time. So all of those lessons are what are making One Take AI successful today.
nice. So if there was one thing, one takeaway for the listeners that you would them to keep in mind today, what would that be? Because you gave us a lot of interesting lessons, but if there is one thing that you want them to keep in mind.
So I'm assuming that most of your listeners today would be people that are either starting or trying to grow their own business, and
Or
that's
are
why.
already long-time business owners or CEOs or anyone, in fact. What
Okay.
would be the one lesson?
Okay. So the one lesson, then and now, I still believe that content marketing is the key of how you grow the business. That's how we grew the original one to the first million in the first year. This is how we are growing One Take today.
Mm.
And being able to articulate a message in the clearest way that you can. And then today we have these amazing AI tools to edit it, which that is what One Take does, of course. Um, that has been the key to getting people to purchase. The
Right.
one thing that I would say as a lesson that comes afterwards is having realized that I spoke a lot about like communication, like being able to communicate
Yes.
more. And what I found is that there's the people think of content marketing as a way to get completely unknown people to find you.
Mm.
And what most people do not realize, and something that was missing in that first startup, is thinking of content marketing as a way to keep people engaged when they are already a customer. So this is why in this current startup, when I say we communicate a lot with our existing buyers, one of the big factors that keep people sticking with us for like a 2 year plus average stay as a customer
Mm.
is that they keep getting more value in the forms of pre-recorded videos, live calls, challenges, trainings with experts. And this, if we had had that at the beginning, it would have removed some of the stress that people were feeling when the company founders were stuck in a cave
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah.
coding and
Yeah.
solving problems. And this is the key to retention. Retention is the key to having a lot more profit. And this is what makes the company successful now. So I would say doing that is the key. And
Okay.
of
Thank
course, if I may
Yeah,
toot
please.
my own horn here, if you're looking for a tool that enables you to do that, then actually instead of sending people to like the main website of One Take that explains what it does with like price points or whatever, we just created a page where people can try it with their own video or audio,
Okay.
like for free without a credit card. And so it's instead of our regular www.onetake.ai, it's try.onetake.ai, and you can just record from your phone or your camera or audio and see the AI edit it for you. Because I believe that even though we are in a time when people are creating content
Hmm.
100% synthetic with AI,
Yeah.
people want to see people. They don't want to see like
Yes.
robot avatars. And so what we do is we enable you to record yourself as you are, and we still turn that into a professional presentation, but you keep that human connection with the audience. And I think that's
That's good.
important.
Yeah, well, I'm of course fighting for human intelligence, even though I'm an AI researcher in the past. So, I mean, you already answered part of the question, but if people want to keep talking with you, where can they find you?
Okay, so best place is through the link I just mentioned, try.onething.ai. We are also starting to publish like on Instagram specifically. At the time I'm speaking, we're just starting an Instagram challenge. But from our website, we have like a live chat. We do lots of live sessions as well that are free. So that's the best way to reach out.
Okay, excellent. So, Sébastien, thank you so much for your time with us and for sharing all this with you. That was super interesting. And I hope we see you soon on
Thank
the
you, Thomas.
podcast again.